Hello, class. Today we're looking at Module 1. Um, I have an assignment and a link for a PDF reading. It's called Look at Your Fish. Would like for y'all to look at that. It's an exercise in thinking critically. I think it's really important before we even start this course that we have biases and ways that we look at our family right now. And as we go through our class, I'm hoping that maybe different perceptions or different attitudes may pop up on how you see your family. So look at your fish as kind of a precursor, and we'll visit it throughout. We'll revisit look at your fish throughout the whole semester. I would like to take this opportunity to um, demonstrate a genogram. This will be your personal developmental project for this semester. I've already drawn up my family. Genogram is a three-generational, sometimes four-generational drawing of your family. As therapists, we use it to look for patterns that go through the generations. We call them intergenerational transmissions. Most families pick up and learn their values and learn. Parents model how to do certain things and how to show affection, how to punish, how to domesticate. And as children, we learn from our parents. So we pick up certain things that are transmitted throughout the generations. Unfortunately, addiction is one of them. It is a biopsychosocial, spiritual disease, so the bio part of it would be possibly genetics. I'm hoping to demonstrate a little bit about that with this video. Uh, like I said, this is my family. The most important thing, first of all, I've sent you all a PDF file of a key that you use with different configurations of how to demonstrate how your family communicates, how they don't communicate, um, if there's hostility, if um, there's a disconnect, deaths, all those are written on a key. With mine, I use cancer and I use a blue squiggly as to show that there's cancer within that one person. Addiction, I use red because there's a lot of addiction in my family. Mental health issues, depression or bipolar, or is a green squiggly. Hostility is a jagged line. If they're distant from each other, that means that they don't really talk back and forth to each other. I use a dotted line. The disconnect is one line and it shows that there's a disconnection. Deceased, I use hearts. Um, a lot of people use different things, and I find that using a heart to show that they're have been are deceased or passed on is a little bit more gentle way of showing the that part of it. Suicides, I use an X, and loves is three lines, which means it's a good, healthy relationship of love. This is just a small portion of what my key would look like, but for demonstration purposes, I just wanted you to see that. Um, as we go through here, the squares are males and the circles are females. The solid line in between, this is my mother and this is my father, so I drew a solid line between them. This is me and this is my sister. So we're the two siblings of my mother and my father. I had a relationship with a woman that I had a child with, and my sister had relationships with four men that she had different children with. This is my grandmother, and this is my grandfather, who is deceased, and then she remarried, so this is where I would draw him. This is my dad's younger brother, and these are my dad's older sisters. So I'm the oldest over my sister, so all the oldest go on the left-hand side, and you progress down to the right. Okay. Now, as you can see, my mother was an addict. Her sister was an addict. Her brother was an addict. My grandmother was an alcoholic. Uh, her second husband was alcoholic, and her third boyfriend was alcoholic. I have an aunt that's alcoholic. My uncle also suffered from depression. He had mental health issues. My grandmother had mental health issues, and my mom had mental health issues, as well as my sister and one of my sister's daughters. So as you can see, a pattern has already developed with mental health. Mental health on the lady's side, mental health on my mom, my sister, and one of her daughters. So that is one pattern that's already showed up, also transmitted intergenerationally. Alcoholism, 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 alcoholism. My mom was not an alcoholic, but she was a pill addict. My sister's alcoholic and a heroin addict. One of her sons is an alcoholic. Now that's just my mother's side. Now, what is important here is we show divorce as two lines through the marriage line. Okay. My grandmother had divorced my grandpa, and this gentleman that she had married committed suicide, and this man committed suicide. Okay. So divorce, and then suicides. So as you can see, I have a dotted line here, which means they were never fully married, but they had a relationship. They were more of boyfriend and girlfriends. My sister was never married. And so far, this is the central family, my mom, my dad, me and my sister. Now, I like to put ages in there. Uh, my sister and I are exactly 11 months apart. We don't talk to each other, so we have a disconnect here. We both became addicts when we were 14. And my parents divorced when we were 14 and 13. So this kind of gives you a layout of how that looks. My mother did remarry again, and she married another man that was alcoholic. But then eventually they got a divorce. Then my mom had another boyfriend. Now the dotted lines are boyfriends. And he is alcoholic. Okay, now there's a heart here. My mom died 5 years ago of complications to her addiction to pills. And so she has a heart. My grandpa has a heart. We never knew him, not that much at all. So we don't really know the relationships that he had with the people. There's not too much. The cool thing about doing a genogram is once you draw it, families have their secrets. And as you go through school, because you'll probably draw more genograms as you go through school, you find out more and more about your family. The first genogram I did was 6 years ago, and I've learned so much more since my first genogram because I ask questions now. My mom and dad's relationship, they were very young when they married. My dad was 17. My mom was 16 when they married. They did love each other, but yet they had a really rocky relationship because they were so young. My dad had me right when they got married. So my mom had just turned 17, my dad had just turned 18. So there were children having children. And so that caused a little bit of friction. And then my dad wanted to be a little bit more successful, so he was away from the house a lot. And so that caused more friction with my mom. My mom didn't know how to work or do anything. She just was learning how to raise children. So that's just kind of how that looks. They did love each other, so I would put 2 lines on, but this kind of took over all of it. And I think age had a lot to do with that. My dad's relationship with his mom was rocky, and he loved all of his sisters, but they were all kind of distant. So there's the single line of love, and then maybe put a little dot that they were distant. My dad and his little brother loved each other a lot. Now, his brother died, it's a little hard here, of his alcoholism. Actually, he died in my dad's house of alcoholism on his couch. My dad's relationship with his stepdad, now his real dad died when my dad was 10 months old. So he never really knew his real dad. The thing that you might want to draw on here also, um, religious affiliations, social economic statuses. This was very low SES, um, social status, very low SES. So they were poor. And if I had a different colored marker, I would draw that in there. They were very poor. This side of the family were cotton farmers, well, sharecroppers basically. And this side of the family, they picked oranges at orchards in Florida. So they grew up very poor, and they grew up very poor. And they were very poor when they met each other. So anyway, back to this, my dad's relationship with um, his stepdad, my step grandpa, was very abusive. So you might want to draw this in on your key, which would be, let's say, abusive. And then you draw the squiggly and put an arrow and fill it in. That way we know what this means. Your key will tell me what's going on with your family. My relationship with my dad when I was growing up was loving but distant. Now, the relationship I had with my mother was very close. And actually, I would draw in a little wave in there and make this something new on my key, because I can do it over here. It would be more enmeshed. My mother was very young when she had me, and as I grew up, we were more like brother and sister, more than my mother was my mother. We did use together as I got older. My sister left home when she was 14, so that's where the disconnect started there. Now, my mom and my sister's relationship was very volatile, and she was close to my dad, but there was still some volatility. So this kind of gives you an example of what I'm talking about. We'll talk a lot more about it as the semester goes, as we look at our fish, because this is my fish. And every one of us come from a different family, a different background, a different system. And this is basically how we look at family systems. Some of us who are intergenerational therapists, we like to look at the generations and see where the patterns develop. If I was to go further, some of these relationships would look similar within the generations, time permitting. But like I said, we'll visit this throughout the semester. This project's not due till the end of the semester. There is genopro.org. I will go ahead and post the link on Blackboard for you that you can actually do this online. It's an online software where you can pick out your key on how to chart your family, how to make it generational. It's very nifty. but also for your own personal reasons. If you're going to be a counselor or work in mental health or work with people profession, you might want to learn how to do this. I try to do it with all of my clients, as I because you pick up on certain things in certain areas where they may need to work as a strength that they are lacking on. But like I said, throughout the whole semester, we'll be presenting new information about your family, of how to look at your family within the context of systems theory. So we'll discuss that more when we get to that piece in the class during the semester. I hope this helps. If y'all have any questions, please send me an email or put it on the discussion board. If you put it on the discussion board, more than one people, more than yourself, might have the same question. So we'll be able to answer it, and everybody could kind of help each other out on that. That's it for now. Thank you.